Hello and welcome to a Thursday night football showdown breakdown show. My name is Adam Levitan, joined by Cody Main and Gary Hartman for Jared Goff at Jordan Love. Quietly interesting game, I think. Cody, how's it going today?
Yeah, it is an interesting game. It's going well. We get Thursday night football right into Ryder Cup lock at 1:35 a.m. Eastern. So I'm excited. Go America, USA, USA, USA.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts in this game, and I'm excited to break it down with you guys.
Gary, how's it going today?
Yeah, I agree with everything Cody just said. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm out West Coast, but would not miss a showdown show for Packers Lions here. This is fun stuff.
As we look at the distributions here, just from a top level perspective, want to be clear, Dave Montgomery was rumored to be out. Dave Montgomery is now in for this game. Dave Montgomery has been dealing with a quad situation. We are projecting him to have mostly his role. We'll talk about more there in a second. I also want to note the Lions are getting back Taylor Decker, which I think is a big boost to their offensive line. On the other side, the Packers get both Aaron Jones and Christian Watson back. So Christian Watson will be making his season debut. Aaron Jones returns to his place atop the backfield. Cody, any high-level thoughts on this game as we get a lot of moving pieces back in the lineup?
Yeah, I think generally when we get pieces that have been out for a couple of weeks and are coming back into the lineup, generally we get them at discounted ownership, also get them at discounted price tags. That's not generally going to be the case on this slate because you have an elevated price tag on Christian Watson. David Montgomery was out for just a week, didn't really see his price adjust too much. Aaron Jones, the most expensive player on the slate. And so it creates the situation where the players that were filling in for them are elevated in price tag as well, and the players that were out are elevated in price as well. So it's a really tough slate from a pricing perspective. We kind of see that reflected in ownership as well. Just running our kind of average salary based off of our ownership projections, we're over 50K. So it's going to be really tough to try and get lineups underneath that 50K salary cap that you feel good about. I think that's going to funnel a lot of people onto a similar roster build tonight. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But I think getting those guys back in the lineup is just gonna evenly distribute ownership a little bit more, and we're gonna get really low ownership at the captain position on some of these guys, which we can maybe take advantage of.
Yeah, we see on some of these showdown slates that salary is not that big a deal. You can easily leave 2, 3, 4, 5,000 on the table. Not going to be the case tonight. I don't think, Cody, any thoughts on roster construction from the field tonight? We currently have a ton of 3-3 and 4-2 Detroit projected.
Yeah, I think just with the way that Detroit likes to operate and the pieces that they're using combined with the price tags that we have on the Detroit side is going to funnel a little bit more to the 4-2 side. But I think it's going to be relatively balanced, and that kind of is indicative of the spread that we have tonight. I think it was 1.5, 2 last I had looked. So I do think it'll lean a little bit heavier in favor of the Lions just because of the offensive pieces that they have. But again, going to be one of those slates where it's very balanced. So if you want to get different by onsliding either side, you can certainly do so.
Start the quarterback position, Gary. We have Jared Goff and Jordan Love. Of course, the home road splits on Jared Goff are absolutely astronomical. I mean, outrageous home road splits for Jared Goff, not just in Detroit, but also going back to his time in LA. Doesn't mean he can't succeed on the road, but historically he has been way worse on the road. We have Jared Goff projected for fewer points than Jordan Love, and Jared Goff is $600 more here. Now, I do think getting Decker back makes a difference. I do think getting David Montgomery back makes a difference. Those guys can both pass protect, and you get Jahmyr Gibbs out to where he should be being used in space as a satellite back more. So, Gary, how are you thinking about quarterbacks tonight?
Yeah, and Goff finally threw a pick 2 weeks ago after some astronomical long streak of no turnovers, and then he threw another one last week. So you got to wonder if the wheels are going to start to fall off there a little bit for Jared Goff, who I think historically throughout his career we did not think of as someone that protected the ball all too well. And, now you mentioned on the road in division, Green Bay looks pretty good on both sides of the ball. I'm definitely more bullish on Jordan Love here. And I think Goff's ownership, while both these ownerships seem pretty efficient to me, Goff's would be the one that I'm certainly more comfortable fading, especially at the higher salary. We mentioned salary being tight. Like Jordan Love, like what we have seen, gets Christian Watson back tonight, potentially gets Aaron Jones back tonight. Like if I was going to take a stand on one of these guys, and just construction in general as a unique way to get into this game would probably be heavy on the Green Bay side, and that includes maybe getting over the field on my Jordan Love captain ownership.
We've talked about repeatedly, Cody, how DraftKings has reduced the pricing on quarterback. Do you think that Goff and Love fall into that category where they're underpriced, and getting both of them into your lineup is probably, not definitely, but probably plus EV. You're on mute, Cody.
I think definitely in cash, just given the way that the salary works out on the skill position players that you have behind them. I think Jared Goff and Jordan Love should certainly be cornerstones of any cash game roster construction tonight. And for GPPs as well, I think, Goff historically would probably be a little bit closer to 10-6, maybe 10-8 on a slate like this. And Jordan Love probably 10-10-2. So it's coming back closer to the kind of median salary range that we would expect for quarterbacks in seasons past, but I still think slightly underpriced. Kind of agree with Gary that the ownership at both captain and total ownership on Goff is pretty efficient. I think as a pocket passer, he's probably a little bit overowned at captain and would prefer to just take shots on his pass catchers at captain in tournaments. On the other side, though, we did see a little bit of that dual threat upside from Jordan Love last week, finally, after not having too many design rushing attempts in weeks 1 and 2. He had a 24% design rush rate in week 3. Obviously small samples here, but we know he can run. We've expected him to be a runner. And at 13.2%, if you're going to give me that dual threat upside, or at least the presence of that dual threat upside, $600 cheaper at home, gets Aaron Jones back, gets his best receiver back, even if he's on a snap count. I think that at 9,800, Love is probably going a little bit underowned at captain tonight in tournaments.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider Love a runner per se, but at least he has it in his bag, where Jared Goff doesn't have it in his bag whatsoever. The running back position is interesting because we have so much fluidity going through it. I was shocked by the way Jahmyr Gibbs was used last week. They thought Jahmyr Gibbs was just, hey, let's just run him up the middle. And I don't know, man. Like, it's fine, but it's not the ideal way, I think, to use Jahmyr Gibbs. The way that he's going to be used this week, I think, will be actually on fewer of the clear passing situations where he's in the backfield. If he lines up somewhere else, that's fine, but they love having Dave Montgomery in there for pass protection. We do get a big discount here on Dave Montgomery because he was hurt. They priced up Jahmyr Gibbs because if he had that full role, 9,600 probably would have looked cheap. David Montgomery, I suspect ownership is going to get a spike here once we rerun for everyone having David Montgomery projected in. Gary, what do you think about Lions running back tonight?
Yeah, okay, good to hear you say that, because I was about to say this ownership seems way too low, or is a spot that I was attacking. If we go back to our first showdown show of the season, I flagged the Montgomery, and when I thought the field was overlooking him, and I think, honestly, even if he gets bumped up on an ownership perspective here tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if the field overlooks him again here a bit. Obviously Gibbs is still the shiny new toy that everyone's ready to click on, but Montgomery's old reliable here. I think a lot of it depends on game script. And so, I mentioned kind of getting into Green Bay stuff potentially as a way to get unique, if you want to go 4-2, 5-1 Green Bay. Montgomery doesn't really make sense to me as the bring back in those options. So I like him more in Detroit stuff or 3-3s, but I definitely like Montgomery with his role. Gibbs, I'm curious to see if his ownership comes down when Montgomery's comes up, but he's expensive. His snap share is still slowly coming along, but what he does bring you is the big playability. And you can't deny that. So I think Cody, I think I'm going to go back to my old classic trope. If I am to play Jahmyr Gibbs, I think I want it in the captain. I think I want that explosion game, and just we kind of know what that talent's all about. So like both these guys, probably not playing them together too often on this particular slate, although obviously Showdown, you don't want to rule anything out. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about the running back here.
Gibbs is very expensive, right? I mean, now that David Montgomery is in, Gibbs is very expensive. I don't think he's going to be able to be owned that much at all, especially by Opto Bros, because he's not going to look very good at 9,600. So I actually think the contrarian play here would be playing a bunch of Jahmyr Gibbs and hoping that he can catch 6-7 balls and find his way into the end zone. Cody, any thoughts on what final ownership might look like here between Gibbs and Montgomery?
Yeah, and you asked me off air, and I think that was the one spot that I thought we had updated for is not updated for. Of course, I think much of the market was assuming that at this point David Montgomery was out when ownership was run. I don't know if these two numbers here will full flip, where we see Jahmyr Gibbs go all the way down to 24.7 and Montgomery go up to like 44.4, something like that. But as I alluded to off the front of the show, this salary is really tight, and the $2,800 you get in savings from Gibbs to Montgomery is super meaningful. And as Adam just alluded to, the Opto Bros are going to get a ton of David Montgomery, I think, on this slate because of the pricing, because of the base projection. Going to look pretty nice in terms of building high ceiling lineups. And so I think, yeah, you're going to get this ownership discount on Gibbs, which is really interesting for the way that they can attack this Packers defense with a high pass rate to the running back position. And it does, with David Montgomery back, it does put Jahmyr Gibbs kind of in that natural role. It was quite bizarre to see how Craig Reynolds almost became Jahmyr Gibbs last week, and Jahmyr Gibbs became David Montgomery with David Montgomery out. So hopefully that flips back where we want Jahmyr Gibbs is out as a pass catcher, specifically on PPR-friendly sites like DraftKings.
Learjet asks, how do we feel about Demont tonight? So just generally on Demont, like not the showdown stuff, I think that this is a very big game for both teams. I think both teams had circled this game and kept guys out last week with their eyes pointed towards a Thursday night division game between probably the two best teams in the division. So, yeah, I think Demont is close enough for me to have him at a full workload, and full workload from David Montgomery is a pretty good workload. I mean, I played him in cash in that game against the Seahawks when he got hurt. He was 5,800. I actually felt pretty good about it. I mean, he was getting a couple screens. He got all the work. He was getting the work. He got most of the baseline work, and he was getting the work around the red zone too. So yeah, I think Dave Montgomery is the kind of guy they like to play for sure. On the other side, we get Aaron Jones back. And my God, A.J. Dillon. I hate to say bad things about A.J. Dillon, my close personal friend, A.J. Dillon, who I've done many AK1 shows with. However, he has been awful. I mean, just straight awful. Has A.J. Dillon one of the worst and least efficient running backs in the league, and he can't get a target. Now, Jordan Love leads the entire NFL in average depth of target. That doesn't mesh well with running back checkdowns, but Aaron Jones is a Kamara-esque talent at the running back position. Cody, how are you thinking about Packers running back tonight?
Yeah, and like you said, it sounded like Aaron Jones was probably close last week, just like Christian Watson was last week as well. And I think just the short rest between last week and Thursday wanted them to kind of give these guys a couple extra days that they needed to get their bodies completely right. And hopefully that is alluding to a full workload tonight for Aaron Jones. I think it probably helps his case that A.J. Dillon did struggle so much to produce as the lead back in the 2 weeks where Jones was out. I don't know if they go full, back to full bell cow Aaron Jones, but I mean, even last year when it was both of these guys were healthy, Jones led in basically every category in this backfield, from rushing share to routes run to target share. He was in there short down and distance, long down and distance, 2-minute snaps. This is really an awesome role for Aaron Jones. I'm cautiously optimistic that the hamstring injury, maybe the market projecting a little bit less of a role for him, plus the slate high 10-8 price tag will keep ownership down. You kind of see that reflected there. This would be the lowest we've ever seen Aaron Jones, but I think that's kind of slate specific. If it keeps him down, I want to kind of bank on him coming right back into that role and having one of those ceiling type performances that, we just saw in week 1 when he was healthy, where he was the RB3 on DraftKings in week 1. So I like Aaron Jones. It's one of those pay up to be contrarian spots. The price tag's really tough to fit, but I think because it's tough to fit, we're going to get pretty low ownership.
For sure. Gary, any thoughts on Green Bay here? I mean, Aaron Jones to me is priced appropriately, but is an awesome play. Any thoughts on Green Bay running back?
Yeah, I don't have much to add on Aaron Jones. I think you guys covered it. He looks great tonight. I mean, I'll just kind of double down on the A.J. Dillon front. I'm no tape bro either, but man, just looks like he's plotting out there and kind of stuck in mud. The price is so low that it looks like the field's going to be around him. I was ready to say, hey, if the field was going to be completely off him, maybe it's so bad it's a good play. But if he's going to even get over the 20-25%, I have a hard time recommending A.J. Dillon tonight.
No, God, he's also not cheap. He's 7,000. I mean,
Right.
I'm not playing this guy at 7,000, especially if he's going to be 26%, which I think we probably need to come down on. But yeah, I mean, it's 7,000 is crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Wide receiver in Green Bay, for my family and the sake of my well-being, Christian Watson is playing tonight. The reports are that he's going to be on a snap count. I thought he had, and the rumors that I heard was that he had a legit chance to play last week, but they were on a short week and were facing the Lions, a division game in week 4. So they held Christian Watson out. Snap count could mean he doesn't play on running downs. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be out there for every single pass down in a really big game. You also get a little bit of a price discount on Christian Watson. Now, I'm not saying that Christian Watson's going to go out there and do it every week. I'm optimistic on Christian Watson in fantasy long-term as a more boom bust kind of guy, but those like explosive boom guys are who I want in my lineup. I would also note that Christian Watson calling card is big plays deep down the field. As I mentioned, Jordan Love leads the entire NFL in average depth of target down the field. DFS people, best ball people were very excited about Christian Watson before the season. I suspect that people are going to be anxious and excited to click him in tonight. And so, like, captain ownership 18% is really high on Christian Watson. I could see it getting even higher in some smaller field, high stakes stuff where people are hand building, which scares me on a player who has a really wide range of outcomes like Christian Watson. Obviously, I like him generally. I think the field is really going to like him here at this price, though, as well. Cody, any thoughts on Packers wide receiver?
Yeah, they gave us a little bit of a discount here on Christian Watson relative to the other guys that he's priced around. You see his projection versus Romeo Doubs, who's priced up quite a bit from Christian Watson being out. And so I think the field's going to shy away from Doubs with Watson back. But I also think that the report that he's on a snap count is probably going to keep that ownership in check. And $8,200 isn't necessarily free by any stretch. I'm with you. If we're going to get reduced ownership either in flex or at captain, I want to take shots here. He was very clearly the alpha to close out the season last year. I would expect him to, again, by the end of this season, close out as the team's alpha. 22 to 24% target share, big plays downfield. Going to end up with a 30 to 35% air yard share. Going to be the guy in the red zone. Going to be the guy that's getting those deep shots. And in a game where play volume might be at a premium with these teams trying to run the ball a little bit more than maybe expected, Christian Watson's a guy that doesn't need to rack up those PPR type plays in order to get there in the box score. Could give you 6 for 101 or something like that, and totally get there if he is on a snap count. So I like taking shots if ownership is going to be reduced. Having a tough time going back to Doubs, where he's $600 more expensive than Christian Watson. With Watson back, he's probably still the number 2 in this offense, but I don't think we're getting a big enough ownership discount there to warrant that. I think the guy that the field is going to be funneled to is the slot receiver, Jaden Reed, whose role probably doesn't change nearly as much. Of course, there's more target competition now with Watson back, but he's going to be out there for the same amount of routes that he was when Watson was sidelined. He's going to operate in that slot role. And $5,600 is honestly quite a little bit too expensive for him. But as you look down there, Dontavian Wicks is $5K. We'll get to some of the guys on the Detroit side. They're still priced up. So you don't really have you don't really have much cheap value on this slate. And so I think as a result, we'll probably see ownership funnel to Jaden Reed, specifically in small field stuff, just as kind of the not even really salary relief, but kind of that mid-tier value that you need to make lineups work.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the thing about Reed. And I actually think Romeo Doubs here is going to be pretty under-owned at 8,800. I know there's controversy. A lot of people on both sides of the Romeo Doubs debate, is he good or is he not? He should be healthier here in theory than he's been. Been dealing with a hamstring injury for a while, but has looked reasonable and certainly has a red zone role. On the other side, Gary, we have the same old story, Amon-Ra and a bunch of very questionable guys. I will say that I do not think Jair Alexander is playing in this game tonight. Obviously, Jair Alexander, one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL. After Amon-Ra, we are projecting Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond after that. And Marvin Jones has just been, so bad they just can't play this guy. But it is very, very tight. Gary, any thoughts on Lions wide receiver tonight?
Yeah, because pricing is tight, it's hard to take a big stand on Amon-Ra from where his ownership is right now. But obviously, we know this is the kind of guy that has slate-breaking upside anytime he steps on the field. He's super expensive. It's hard to argue against him, though, especially if Alexander's out. Kind of a matchup-proof guy for me in general, just from a volume perspective, but no issues with him. From there, these ownerships seem pretty efficient. You can make the argument Josh Reynolds, after completely falling flat on his face last week after a big week 1, the role is still there for him. If the defensive attention is going to be all over Amon-Ra, I like him at only 32%. I know 32% is not a small number, especially when you kind of look at what some of those Green Bay second and third receivers had. But we know that he's definitely the number 2 option right now from that receiving core. Take out Laporta. So I do like him. Raymond also, I think, is fine too at 14%. So I know I'm not giving much analysis here, but this seems pretty efficient to me.
Jason says, who on the Lions benefits the most from Jair Alexander not playing tonight? Jair Alexander had only been in the slot 2 snaps all season. And he'll shadow good perimeter receivers. Everybody saw what he did in week 17 or helped do in week 17 to Justin Jefferson last year. I think if it helps anyone, it's Josh Reynolds. And to me, Josh Reynolds coming off the air ball last week is a good opportunity to get back on Josh Reynolds here tonight. He was a smash in week 2, as Gary alluded to. We have 2 exciting rookie tight ends. I'm going to talk about tight ends together here because I think Laporta and Musgrave are in similar boats, both really, really talented pass catchers, dominated for their college teams. Laporta has been awesome at the NFL level right away. I believe, Cody, adding the article, second in tight end PPR points per game already is Sam Laporta. Obviously doesn't take much when you play that tight end position. I think that the role for Laporta is just so much more secure than Musgrave. Like the target share for Laporta when you're competing against guys like Khalif Raymond and Marvin Jones and Josh Reynolds is way different than Luke Musgrave competing against Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. And so I think the way that Laporta wins also fits a little bit better with Jared Goff than the way Jordan Love wins with Luke Musgrave. So I certainly prefer Laporta. He's also 1,600 more here and likely will come with more ownership too. So Cody, what do you think about the tight ends tonight?
This is so tough because, we get through the wide receiver position and you find it difficult to say good things about Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond and certainly Marvin Jones. And on the other side now with Christian Watson back, it gets more difficult. But these rookie tight ends look like standout plays. And then you throw in price matters, ownership matters, and it gets really tough to click both of them. Laporta, as you mentioned, I think has the better role of the two and probably the second best overall, maybe third best overall pass catching role on the entire slate with his target share. But it's a super low ADOT, 6.3 yard ADOT. He really needs to get there either A, on PPR friendly type volume, which is certainly possible, or doing what he did last week, which is housing one for 45 yards, where you get that 22 point DraftKings point eruption. On the other side, Musgrave wins in a very different way, running around on 83% of dropbacks, 57.5% of which have come from the slot. That's fantastic. He's got a lower target share, 15.8%, but he's got this high ADOT. And so you could see these situations where if Musgrave can connect with Jordan Love, you could see him get there on just a few plays. 11.5 yard ADOT is kind of right up there with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. So he's got this wide receiver style play to his game a little bit. It's tough because the price tags on both of these guys are really tough. I want to say I like Laporta. It's tough to say really anything bad about his game and his usage profile, but at 8K, it's going to be tough to fit. So, if I'm forced to choose a tight end, I think I'm going to side with Musgrave, even though there's more target competition there. But I think the $1,600 discount is meaningful. I think he'll be a little bit less owned as a result too. And I think in more casual fields, after people saw what Laporta did last week, I think people are going to go there.
Yeah, there is a lot of Musgrave hype in the chat. My God, Samir says, really hoping Musgrave breaks out tonight. Jason says Watson being back in the lineup should open things up for Musgrave. Hoffa says Musgrave captain going to be really good. Eddie says Musgrave breakout game. Trust. Thomas says Musgrave is due for a touch. I've never seen such uniformity, such positivity and uniformity among the chat, Gary.
I think I agree. I like Musgrave tonight. First of all, look at last week. I mean, Lions, no CJ Gardner-Johnson anymore, helps things open up the middle of the field, I think, for the Packers and just kind of get into player take stuff. But the Lions have given up a ton of targets to tight ends. I mean, I think they gave up 18 targets last week to the Falcons. Jonnu had 8, Pitts had 9. They gave up 10 to the Seahawks. They gave up 5 for 43 and a touchdown in week 1 to the Chiefs without Kelsey. So I think they give up quite a bit of volume to this position. And I was ready to, if I was going to comment on the Packers receivers, I was going to say I think Jaden Reed was pretty good chalk because his role is not going to change very much. Managed to get a 20% target share, even only on 60% of snaps up to this point. I like that. Maybe the answer is just Musgrave with Christian Watson back as kind of the pivot. And ownership 21%, 3% captain. I'm with Chat here. I like Luke Musgrave quite a bit.
All right. Chat has planted their flag on Luke Musgrave. This game is outside tonight in Green Bay. I believe it's fine weather, though. I need to double check that. But yeah, Cody, any strat thoughts on defense and kicker tonight? I suspect they're going to be a little bit more popular than usual because there's so few options below 5K that are viable on this slate.
Yes. Kickers especially going to be very popular. You see the nice base projections 8 points at 4,800 for Riley Patterson, 7.8 at 4,600 for Anders Carlson. Shout out to DraftKings and the pricing team here. These guys would historically be like 4K to 4,200, and that might not seem like a big deal, but the $600 to $800 that they're priced up in this slate is at least going to keep ownership in check and make it a decision point. But with that said, these guys, because of the Opto bros and because of the projection bros, when we get into smaller field contests specifically, would not be surprised at all because of the lack of value on the slate to see Riley Patterson and Anders Carlson push 40%. We saw it recently with Daniel Carlson on the Raiders. There was very little skill position value in that Raiders-Steelers slate. And I think Daniel Carlson in some of the contests that I was playing, smaller field, higher stake stuff, was 40% plus. I think we'll see that again tonight because I don't even know that we mentioned a skill position player under 5K as really even viable on this slate. So kickers will be pushed up. Defenses will be pushed up a little bit, but because there's that separation and projection, I don't think they will be as much. And I think if you want just a 1v1 type of pivot off of a more popular construction, you can go from a kicker to a defense. You're not really sacrificing much correlation because there's not much correlation there to begin with. And I think the Packers are going to be down two offensive linemen. Maybe that Lions pass rush gets home a little bit more. So I like the Lions defense a little bit too. But yeah, the skill position, or these skill groups, so these kickers and DSTs as a whole are going to get pushed up quite a bit in ownership tonight.
My favorite of the group that's on this screen, it's not even close, is Lions defense. The way that Jordan Love is playing right now, this very aggressive, very deep down the field, inaccurate style, lends itself to big defensive plays. And I also think Lions pass rush against this banged up offensive line is certainly can get there as well. So yeah, Lions defense, I think, is pretty good here on this slate. I am worried about ownership on all these guys. It's like hard to make lineups without playing some of these guys is a problem. All right. I can take a couple questions here before we get to the flag plants. By the way, if anyone out there does not have in season yet, you can get access to all our main slate projections, top plays, all the shows that we do. Head to establishedrun.com/subscribe. And if you are watching this free on YouTube, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button. If you guys don't have any questions, we can go ahead and get to the flag plant portion of the program. Hoffa has a question. He says, is Josh Reynolds alive? Yes. Josh Reynolds is in fact alive. He just happened to not catch a football in last week's game. Any punts in play below 3K? So I think this is actually a good question, important to the slate. Is there anyone below 3K that we can reasonably play and try to save some salary? We do not have anyone projected for more than 2 points here. Marvin Jones would be the highest. Brock Wright also. I don't know. Do either of you guys see anything that you'd actually consider in a hand build type thing below 3K?
Yeah, I think you're getting at least a big enough price and ownership discount on Marvin Jones. He looks like complete dust. He lost favor last week to Khalif Raymond. They could easily go more 2 tight end stuff. They could easily go more 2 running back stuff here with Dave Montgomery healthy and Jahmyr Gibbs capable of playing some of those positions. But Marvin Jones is fine. The other one that I was going to throw out was Samori Toure. Obviously, it's bad with Christian Watson back. They're fully healthy now, and they're going to play Dontavian Wicks a little bit too, but he's 600. It could be a situation where you need all the high-priced guys, and the only way to get the high-priced guys is to get like 1 reception and 10 yards from Samori Toure. So like in a lineup that has Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jordan Love and Aaron Jones, and you really just need the salary relief, it's possible that if all those guys completely go off, you're fine with like 2 or 3 points from Toure, but it's ugly. It's ugly down there.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing about Marvin Jones is like, guy's bad, can't do it anymore. But you saw what happened to Olamide Zaccheaus in that Eagles game. Like, he was just out there, and he wasn't even open. It felt like Jalen Hurts just like closed his eyes and like threw it somewhere, and somehow like Zaccheaus came up with it for a touchdown. That's what Marvin Jones would need. But yeah, for Showdown, all that stuff is certainly possible.
Yeah, I mean, we joke about the cheap $200 to $800 tight ends. Also, I mean, Brock Wright's out there a little bit, and I think he played like 30 snaps last week. He could fall into a touchdown type thing. If I was in large field, I'd include him in my pool.
All right. Chris says, when optimizing for showdowns, do you use the base projection or 50-50 between projection and ceiling? I think when you're playing tournaments, you should almost always incorporate some level of ceiling also. But yeah, Cody, what do you think about for the Opto Bros? What do you optimize by?
Yeah, I'm messing with the optimizer so much with rules and groups and boosts and docs that I'm trying to get things that I want to see, because I'm generally just going to funnel those types of lineups into the single entry 3 max type stuff that I'm often playing. But I think if you're doing a full 150 max set and you're just going to trust the optimizer, I would prefer to optimize by ceiling.
Okay. Alan says, is Aaron Jones on a snap count? So I want to be clear. We are projecting the Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon split as we would for weeks 1, 2, and 3, as if Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon were both healthy. Yes, we are obviously aware of the report that Aaron Jones is on a quote unquote snap count and load management. Aaron Jones already doesn't play the entire game, right? So I don't know. I these reports and stuff, it's such a big game for the Packers. My take is Aaron Jones, as long as he feels good, is going to be out there as much as possible. And my IKB is that this actually might be wider between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. You know, we only have them, 5.4 points apart, which I think is good based on historicals. In this game, in this setup, and considering how bad AJ Dillon has been, I kind of think could be wider between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon tonight. Is a max 1 wide receiver rule in lineups that contain Musgrave a good call tonight? That sounds like an Opto rule question for Cody, the Opto virgin.
If I have Musgrave at captain, I would be max 1 of all remaining Packers wide receivers. If I have Musgrave at flex, I would be okay with having another wide receiver in there somewhere.
Yes. Choke Hold'em says I had 60% Zacchaeus, as did I. And I only played one lineup actually in that 2-game slate. I somehow hit the stones with Hurts to Zacchaeus, and I still didn't win the tournament. Got third. It was so incredible. Fry says on a 5-1 Packers onslaught, who is the likely optimal bring back? Gibbs seems like the pick to me. Gary, any thoughts on a Lions bring back in 5-1s?
Yeah, I think Gibbs would be fine. I think you could make an argument for like any of those Lions pass catchers. Just Montgomery would be the one that you're not interested in, right? You could make an argument for Amon-Ra, certainly, who's done plenty of damage in garbage time throughout his career. So he'd probably be my top guy if you can afford it, just obviously. But then, Raymond and Reynolds seem good too. So I think any of those guys, Raymond's kind of interesting as the smaller underneath guy. Maybe they drop some stuff trying to move the ball a little bit. But yeah, Gibbs and Amon-Ra are the obvious choices there.
Yeah, the 5-1 onslaughts, quarterback on the other side is possible. Cody, I just don't know if you can fit it. What do you think about the other side of 5-1s?
Yeah, I've looked at this a ton historically, and generally the opposite, the opposing player in a 5-1, whether it's 1-5 or 5-1, the opposing player is generally going to be a pass catcher. That's historically been proven out. I think it's something like 50 to 60% that it's a wide receiver or tight end. Then you throw in somebody like Jahmyr Gibbs from the running back position, who's going to do a lot of his damage from receptions as well. The one reason why, just intuitively, it's tough to get a quarterback there is like if a quarterback has a game where he's a worthy flex play, it's probably likely that he brought, a pass catcher along with him, or at least close. And then in those cases, you're looking at something that's more like a 4-2 or a 3-3 or something like that. So on this game, I would find my salary relief from, if I was doing a 5-1, I'd find my salary relief from like the Packers kicker plus the Packers DST. And if I'm playing into that onslaught type nature, then I like what Gary said, pay up on the Lions side for one of those PPR style type plays like Gibbs or Amon-Ra.
All right. Let's get to the flag plant portion of the program. Flag plants are, of course, all in good fun, but we try to throw out some players that we think will be in the optimal. Cody, I give you the floor.
Yeah, I'm going to keep the pandering going. I'm going to pander to our American audience in the Ryder Cup show that we're doing shortly after for golf subscribers. I'm going to pander to the chat today, and we're going to the Packers tight end Luke Musgrave. I think Luke Musgrave has a breakout tonight. I like the wide receiver style ADOT that he's shown. The route participation is great. The routes from the slot is fantastic. I agree with Gary that this Lions defense is likely to funnel some of their receptions at least to the tight end possession to the tight end position. So give me Musgrave to find the end zone today.
Luke Musgrave. Cody and the chat are in lockstep. Gary, go ahead.
Musgrave's a good one as well. I'm gonna really buy into something that you just said, Adam, and that is not only is Aaron Jones healthy, but they're going all in there. They want to win this game. AJ Dillon's looked like not even an NFL player. I was gonna say borderline NFL player, not even an NFL player through the first 3 weeks of this season. They know how important he is to get anything done. Maybe the field, is off it because of price a little bit, worried about workload. Lions have a decent, between the tackles, run D, all of that kind of funnels me to an expensive Aaron Jones tonight. Particularly would like him at captain. We see him go off on these seems like these primetime games more often than not. I don't have that goes in front of me, but I like him at captain. When he explodes, he really explodes. So Aaron Jones captain tonight. That's my my flag mark.
Aaron Jones for Gary. Wise man once told me, you want to have clean sweats, you want to have clean sweats. It's always about clean sweats. I don't want to have, I need this for this. I need that for that. Listen, I need Christian Watson for season long. I need Christian Watson for best ball. And you're damn right that in a clean sweat, I'm going to need Christian Watson for Showdown, DFS. Tonight, I know people have concerns about his hamstring again. I really think he could have played last week if they wanted him to. They saved him for this massive division game on a short week. Christian Watson's also had more than 4 weeks now to get his hamstring right. And so for me, you're getting Christian Watson 8,200. Alpha wide receivers are often 9K, 10K on Showdown, depending on just how alpha that they are. We see Amon-Ra St. Brown up there at 11,600. So given the price, maybe people are worried about this snap count stuff. Maybe people are worried about the hamstring. Keep Christian Watson's ownership in check. Give me the alpha wide receiver at captain tonight for Showdown. All right. Appreciate all you guys being here. As always, we will be back. Well, we'll be back Friday night for subscribers on the main slate show. And then Sunday and Monday, one of those, we'll be back for a Showdown show for you all. For Gary. For Cody, representing the United States at the Ryder Cup, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.